All right, we are live. What's up? It is Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Tuesday, November 10th, if you can believe it already. It's 8 o'clock Eastern. My name is Jeff with Teach Better Team. I got Becky Schnekser with me. I got Joshua Stamper, and I got Jennifer Appel. And we're going to talk a little bit about time management and probably Baby Yoda. So stick with us. All right. I don't know what it is, but I just can't get, I love that little song. Like
that video is awesome.
Every time I'm dancing and just loving it. So hi, everyone. Great to see you. I see we have some people jumping in and chatting with us or watching us. They're not chatting yet. If you are watching, do us a favor, jump in the comments. Let us know where you're at, both geographically and where you're at, like where you're watching and what's going on. So glad you're spending a little bit of time with us. We're going to talk a little bit about time management, which has been a thing that we're talking about quite a bit right now with the team, with a course coming out and then an awesome blog series that just dropped on Sunday. But first and foremost, we have to take a minute and talk to Becky about Baby Yoda. So what's going on back there?
I am a huge nerd, so that's what's going on back here. And my husband and I are huge Mandalorian fans, and I've been stalking this guy. He's been at Target for like ever, and they went on sale. I know they went on sale, and I was like, you can't say no to this face. Look at this face.
Especially when he's on sale, right?
I know he was on sale, so I waited at least like a little bit of time.
I did not do a good job. I didn't bring up our private group, so I can't see who's comment. Oh, that's Chad. It doesn't matter.
Chad doesn't count.
Yeah. Good to see you, Chad. And I see Nikki's here. Nikki's got like, I don't know if anybody saw Nikki chatting earlier. There was a post and went on. Someone, I can't remember who else it was. I apologize. Someone got one of our Teach Better Family tumblers, and Nikki's like, oh, I got one too. And they're like, yeah, I love it. And she goes, yeah, so much. I've got two, because that's just Nikki. She's got like everything from the swag store. So good to see you, Dean. Dean coming in on Twitter. Hans, what's up, Hans? Some love for Baby Yoda. Love that series there. Chad put his name there now, so now we have that. That's good. That's good. So the series was really cool. So we just put out a course on Thursday, Time Management 101. And what I love about this team is we're like, hey, we should put out a couple blog posts that connect to the course in some way. And the team's like, how about 10? And between team members and our guest bloggers, like it just went crazy. And so Becky, I know you had a post that you did. Hans, who's chiming in, had a post that I don't want to embarrass him. This is a positive thing. Hans like misheard the ask of we were looking for like tips, and Hans just goes ahead and writes a blog post, which I think is an awesome post. So I gave him some shout out in the team things there too. So we end up with 10 posts, but then each post has like a tip at the bottom too from someone else. So Jen, I know you're in on one of the posts. Which post is your tip on?
I don't remember. I think it's like the very. I want to say it was like the very first one.
Okay.
It was done.
I tell you what, someone go figure out what post Jen's tip is on. So you got to go to the bottom of the post and find the tip, figure out what that is. So Dave's watching. Dave, thanks for letting the mastermind out on time so he could get here. I see Breeze here as well. And Hans says, under promise, over deliver. That's right. Hans's post is really a good post. I mean, they're all really good posts. Don't get me wrong. Hans was really good. Becky's was okay too. It was pretty good. What was yours titled? It was like time management Schnekser style or something, right? Yeah. I enjoyed it. Jen, do you remember what your tip was? Can you share that with us now? Or if you don't remember word for word, that's okay.
I actually
I'm you, next time I promise I'm going to get you cue cards or something. I'm not. I don't know.
Like, I remember what mine was. I just can't remember the blog post right now. I've seen it. I know exactly what it looks like, but I just can't pull out the name right now. I can see it in my head.
Just make one up.
No, I actually do remember my tip. It was to like, it's kind of like Hans's blog. It's all about like batching things together. Yeah. So when I'm at school, I have a basket of like to-dos, like errands I have to run. And I put everything in that basket of like, these are all the errands I have to run that are like around the school. And then when I'm ready, I grab that whole thing. And then I think about what is the quickest route to do all of those things from where my classroom is located to where all those are located, and then come back. So I try to like batch everything together and then go run those errands. And my dad actually, like, I grew up watching him, and he, where his school was, the district office was like, 4 or 5 miles, something like that. He found the fastest route to get from his school to the district office taking all right turns, because right turns are more efficient than left-hand turns. And so he figured out a way to get there in the most efficient amount of time, because he wanted to be in his classroom and he wanted to be like at his school. He was a principal. And so he wanted to make sure he could get back to his school quickly. And so, this craziness like runs in the family. So time management is like a family thing that we love.
So when you say you have a basket and you put everything in, are you putting in, are they notes, the piece of paper? Like, what are you putting in? Like, how do you?
Whatever. So it can be like, I have to deliver this to someone. I need to if it's something like I need to talk to someone, like I need to go talk to the counselors about this kid or whatever, I'll write myself a sticky note and then set it in the basket. So it's like
a pack of papers that needs to go or
I need to go check my box. If it's something that I have to do that there's not actually some item I have to take, I just put a little sticky note like in there. So I'll remember like, this is where I have to go. And then I try to get it all done and then come back to my room so I don't spend too much time away.
Of course, Brienne steps up and lets us know that yours is on
that's one way.
Which Bobby friends. Bobby's an active participant in our mastermind group and just awesome. She's really started, one of her commitments recently has been to write more, and she's chosen to write a lot more for us too, which is awesome. So that was a good post as well.
She had a great post.
She did. Josh, as a building administrator, what's your time management strategy? And I didn't ask you before, so I apologize if you don't have one. Not to call you up, but like, what are your go-tos? How do you keep yourself organized? Are you crazy like Jen with the basket and stuff? Or no, I'm not saying crazy. I think it's an awesome idea. Actually,
I'm not as crazy as Jen for sure.
You said crazy, Jen, not me. But no, like, is it something similar like that? Do you think about that when you have to go travel to school? Or are you planning out your route like that? Or
no? But I want to say, Bobby French's blog post was awesome, and the one thing that she put in there was the alarm app, and that's something I've been using a lot on my phone. Okay. My phone is my life. Like, my phone is with me all the times. Using the reminder app, using the alarms, using the calendar. I mean, I'm trying to use as many apps as possible to remind me. If I don't have reminders that are constantly going off, I'm like a squirrel, moment, looking all over. There's a million different things as an administrator that kind of get in your way. If I go down a hallway, I'm probably going to get stopped about 10 times. And so between just that one hallway going from point A to point B, if I don't have a reminder or something in my phone, then most likely I will forget.
So it's all about making sure that constant reminder, constant sort of nudge. So even if you do get stopped, that second alarm goes off to make sure you remember where you were supposed to be going.
Exactly.
Totally get that. Becky, you did a post, and what was the general theme in your post? Sort of what were you like? I mean, you don't have to read the whole post to us, but
I can just read it to you. I think.
If you want to just read it to us, we have it up. That's great. Story time.
No. So the general gist, so it's actually, as I was reading other blog posts, I was like, oh, that's part of mine. Oh, that's part of mine. So I feel like I'm just like I take everybody's ideas and it's together. And that's why it's called Schnekser style, because it's really just like everyone else's ideas all put together. But the general, one thing that I know that I do, two things that I do that are a little bit different than other people are anytime I have a due date for whatever it is. It's a grant proposal. It's observation, feedback, whatever it is, I always trick myself in my planner, and I use a phone and I use a paper planner, but I trick myself and I make it at least 3 days ahead of time. So if it's due Friday, in my book, it says Wednesday. And although I know that, and I open my planner, I'm like, oh, it's not really due till Friday. I finish it by Wednesday, if not earlier. And then if I can, I'll sneak those a week earlier than they're actually due. Just so it's just one of those, okay, this is where I want to finish it. And then if stuff hits the fan and I need an extra day or I need an extra 2 days, then it's okay. But I try and stay very true to that trickery, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I think of things, I chunk my tasks into 1 hour increments. So even though something might take me 15 minutes, and I know that it's only going to take me 15 minutes, I chunk my time as an hour for that task. Because what happens, right? You get home and your 5 kids, Joshua, are doing stuff, or your dog like needs to go outside right now, or whatever's happening, or you get a phone call and a parent or a teacher needs you, then that 15 minutes that I allotted, if I'm so tight that it's 15-minute blocks, then I don't have a cushion at all. So I do hour blocks no matter what. Sometimes it's 2-hour blocks if I need to do that. And then it gives me that natural buffer. And then if I don't use that buffer, then I magically have more time to get something from tomorrow's to-do list, and I do it today. So those are kind of 2 things that I do that I don't know if other people do that, or I haven't really seen that other places, but those are my tips for time management when you can. I mean, sometimes you hear today that somebody needs something tomorrow, and so I can't do a 3-day buffer because it's due tomorrow. But that's where the 3-day buffer for the next task helps me out. So
helps you in there, yeah. I like the hour blocks and that buffer there, because you never know what goes up, or if something might lead you into another idea, or and if you get it done, I assume if you get it done, you get to move on to the next thing, right? And still bring other stuff in. So yeah, it's always a good idea when you're assessing how much time you're going to need in that block for whatever the tasks are going to be, to give yourself more time. Obviously. So that's good stuff. Someone asked what the topic is. The topic that we're talking about is time management. So we just had a course come out. I'm going to put the course up. I haven't popped that on the bottom yet. So you can get the new course over at teachbetteracademy.com. But then we also had 10 blog posts drop on Sunday, which, by the way, just a little shout out to Carrie and Livia, who took those 10 blogs and got them all ready and got them all posted on Sunday, which is awesome because they're already putting out 6 blogs the other 6 days a week, which, by the way, is going to 7 in December. Fun little I keep pushing and Carrie keeps saying yes. So we'll keep going. But yeah, so this is revolving around the new course. And Becky, you were talking about how you kind of pull from everyone. That's what the course is. It's just, none of it's stuff that I made up in any means. It's all things that I pulled from people that I know, or people that I follow online, that I subscribe to on YouTube, and ideas, and then just sort of how I've kind of made them work for me, or seen them and see them work for other people and stuff. So that's
Jeff. I was going to ask you about that. Like, who is there? Like one person that you're like the person that comes to my mind that I think of with time management is like Tim Ferriss. Like he's a guy that like really knows what he's talking about. Is there somebody like that you're like, I've really looked at like this person to like, this has kind of inspired me. You know what I mean?
Tim would definitely be in the mix. Chris Drucker is another one. And then if you don't know Amy Landino, she used to be Amy Schmidauer. She's actually in Columbus, Ohio, but she's huge on YouTube. And she's just got, a fantastic, she covers a wide variety of stuff, but her time management, her task management, her journaling, her sort of how she resets when she's in a funk. Her morning routines, just everything is really good. Her newest book is, I'm forgetting what Good Morning, Good Life, I think is what it's called. But it's all about that morning routine stuff. And she's, so she does a really good job. So it's Landino, Landino, I think, is her new married name. So that she's definitely one that I turn to. But yeah, Tim Ferriss is definitely, a great one to, if you were looking at that. And then Chris Drucker would be another one. So.
And Gargas, what about your blog post? Because you actually had a really cool piece in there also about tracking your time.
Yeah, for me and I talk about in the course, like for me that is the foundation of really getting efficient with your time, is understanding where your time is going. Because if you don't know where your time is going, then what are you gonna do? And the reference I use, like tracking your time and analyze that, is like balancing your checkbook. And if you don't, I plan like if you're not aware of where your time's going, you can very easily fall victim to the checkout line candy bar. It actually comes from when I was younger. When I was actually working in the financial world, and one of the things was that I wasn't great with my finances. So one of the things that one of my mentors had me do is I carried a little notepad around. I wrote down every single thing, every dime I spent anywhere. And I realized that I was spending a lot of money on little random stuff at the checkout, like a Snickers bar here or whatever, that I didn't realize was adding up to a lot of money every month. Well, it's the same thing. One of the biggest candy bars is tax switching, which is where things like batching are so powerful, because when you batch things that keep you more efficient or in the same realm or whatever, you're not switching. And when you switch tasks, because you're focused here and you're writing a blog post or writing for your book and an email pops in, if you switch, it's not just that you stopped working, you changed your focus. Now you're over here. There's also the time. It doesn't seem like much, but it's the time to move over. And then you have this time when you come back, you have to get refocused, and it's going to take you longer to get back there. By the time you add that all up, you might have lost 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, which also might not seem like a lot, but if you add that up, it turns into a ton of time. And so it's things like, Jen was talking about like the physical part of like when she's got to go places, she plans that out, what she needs to do. For me, it's a lot of things of like, the example that I often get is like, if I know I need to write a blog post for Carrie, but I also know I have to do some stuff to fix things on a site or updates on the site, I try to do that all at once, because that's one login to our website versus having to go back a bunch of times. And I'm in there, even if they're completely different things. And same thing, if I'm doing anything related to, maybe it's accounting work or something like that, if I've got to go into our QuickBooks or go into that, I want to do that once. I don't want to do that 15 different times. So that's where that batching really, really comes in handy. And both the calendar blocking for when you're going to be in certain systems and certain modes, especially, we're a small business. So like everyone on our team wears multiple hats. And I get to wear a lot of hats, and I might wear a lot of them right all in the same hour. So like blocking off, like here's when I got my accountant hat on. Here's when I got to put my HR hat on. Here's when I got to put my podcast network hat on, right? All those things, that time batching and that blocking is really, really important. For me personally, it all comes back. For me, the tracking really just opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff. And I did it for a long while, and then I stopped, and I got back to it, 7-8 months ago. Actually, that was pre-COVID, and I got really, really focused on it. And I started like measuring my history of tasks being knocked off, and then what I was currently doing, and then assessing, but wait a minute, were they little tasks, big tasks? And I'm like, no, I'm knocking off almost double the amount of tasks on an average day, and they are either the same level of task or higher, or like more in depth or whatever. I'm like, I am so much more productive when I'm tracking that. I actually had an argument with someone. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, you can't win. Like, I already won. You don't get to win. Like, if you don't track your time, you're not as efficient. Just done. Like, you can't. I almost refuse to argue that anymore. But you don't necessarily have to do it forever, but just analyze it once so you can catch some of those tendencies and be like, man, I check my email a lot. Or, you know what I mean? Like, or wow, that seems like I have a lot of really long restroom breaks. Maybe I'm doing other things when I go to the restroom, right? Because like that was one of me. I'm like, oh, I got to separate. So I have restroom breaks. I have coffee breaks. I have family breaks. I have break time. I have laundry breaks, because sometimes I do laundry because I'm at my house. So that I know what I'm doing on all those things. And it's not like to beat yourself up about what you get caught up in. It's to understand where your time's going, so then you can be more aware of that stuff. So that's a big one for me, and is always my push to people to start with. I always say at least 2 weeks of just really like obsessed, like tracking, like really ridiculous, and going back. And then from there, I still track every day. Sometimes I'm really good at it. Sometimes I'm not. But when I'm not, I'm like, gotta be better tomorrow. And then I get a little more refocused. So because
I think tracking, I think tracking applies to like so many things too, like because
absolutely.
Like food, like when I was really sick when I was like in my 20s, and I remember that was something my doctor said. He's like, write down everything you eat, and it's like you don't really realize all the things you're eating in a day until you like write all those things down. And you're like, wow, did I really eat that there? And did I really like have that extra granola bar or whatever it was? It was like you don't really realize until you actually like track everything. It's the same. Like I have students do it all the time. Like within an hour of my class, I have them track like, what is it you're doing like through that whole hour? No more info on Gargas's bathroom break. And then I started talking about food. Like this is a bad transition.
But you're right. That's why I absolutely.
No, but like with students, I have them like write it down like in an hour. Like in my class period, it's 55 minutes. Like I actually have them like really track like what they're doing, and they're like, Mrs. Apple, like I wasted like 20 minutes like doing this, like all these different things, and like I had no idea like I was wasting all this time. And I was like, oh, I have all this stuff to do at home because I'm not getting anything. I don't have enough time to do it. And I'm like, you actually do. It's how you're using your time, right? And so I think a lot of these things you're talking about, Jeff, like I teach all of these things to my middle schoolers. Like we talk about all these things all the time because they need these skills. I mean, this is a life skill that they can have. So I think a lot of the stuff you talk about in your course, you can apply in your classroom, like with your students, like they can start doing some of these things.
Yeah, you can apply. I mean, it applies everywhere, whether it's your professional life, your personal life, everything like that. I mean, because you know, you it might not be that, you know, I talk about delegation stuff. Well, that might not be something you can do as a classroom teacher, but can you delegate chores at home? Like little things like that, which seem simple, but maybe like, oh, my kids do X, Y, Z, but I haven't thought about everything else. Are there other little things that I can free up that time so I can work on that book I want to write, so I can have some time to relax for a second. I mean, Josh, you have a bunch of kids. You shouldn't have to do any work at home.
Oh yeah, it's like a little army down here. That's in Texas. That's how we work. No.
Have any of you guys? Have you tracked before? Have you done that before? Have you ever like delved into like where your time's going? Jen, it sounds like you definitely have. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I track. That's just kind of how I am. Delegating dishes at home is a great idea, is what Hans just said. Yeah. He delegates that activity quite well at our house. He's really good at delegating that. I have delegated laundry. I'm actually not even allowed in the laundry room. So I have completely delegated that activity to him. Yes. Yeah, I have tracked, and it's fascinating. I think I like to track, like, I'm just kind of obsessed with time management. So I love all parts of it, but I mean, I track a lot of things, and I find it, like you said, Jeff, it's like, you think you're doing one thing, like in your brain, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to the kitchen to get a little snack. Like, it's just a little snack break, but it's like, yeah, that was like 2 hours. And like, I don't eat that much food. Like, I eat like an apple in like 2 hours. Like, I don't eat that much. So I'm like, what am I doing on the snack break? Like, you know, and so you start to realize like, okay, I can be much more efficient if I like plan this and do the, you know.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I say, like I think I talked about it in the post that you referenced, Josh. She's like, you might be really good at always thinking through it, but there's a really good chance you're forgetting something. Because honestly, if you think about it, if you are so focused on thinking through everything you're doing with your time, are you really doing a good job at anything you're doing? If that's where all your mental power is, versus just tracking it, then the app's going to the app or whatever you're using to track it will remind you. When I first did it, it was on paper. I just did it on paper. But like Jen, like you're talking about, like, you go away and you come back to like, oh wow, it's been going for 2 hours, and then you have to stop and you go, what did I do now? Because now I'm not just going to put in break or snack. It's like, okay, what did I do? Let me break it up. Now you're thinking, now you're getting really, really intentional about what you just did. And you're much less likely to go do 2 hour snack break tomorrow, right? And I laugh at 2 hour snack break because I've totally done it. Like, I totally know what you're talking about. It's really easy to do when we're working at home, especially, right? You know, you step away for a second and you're like, oh, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee, but then the dryer buzzes and then the dog needs out. And that's all stuff that's okay as long as you're getting work done. But being aware of it is just so powerful. So I think that's a huge piece. Brandon, what's going on?
I think that's what's key with what you're saying, Jeff, is right now, like a lot of us, I have never worked from home. I mean, I've been an educator or like worked in jobs that have always been outside of my house. So I have never, I mean, this is the first time in my life I've worked at home for a long period of time. And it's a very different, like, it's a very different idea. And so there's a lot more distractions you have. A lot of things that can like pull your time away. So I've really had to like relook at that. I'm really good at time management. Like, I'm kind of obsessed with it. So like, I'm really pretty efficient, but working from home, I've had to really relook at what I'm doing. So I think that's really cool why your class is right now. A lot of people need it. And
that's really common. A lot of people who are very efficient, very good at managing their time and stuff, have like almost beat themselves up working from home because they didn't realize that. And it's like, yeah, but it's a completely different environment. It's not that you suddenly became not good or not as efficient. You're just in a very different environment. And when you're at home and that distraction comes, it's different because it's typically something personal, so you can justify it differently, right? Because it's not like, don't interrupt me in my office, I can't hide. It's okay, it's laundry, my family needs that done, or if this or whatever. It's just really easy to get distracted. I always say, like, I've been working from my house for long before the pandemic, and it's still a struggle for me. And prior to pandemic, I've gotten pretty good at where I know where I need to get up and go somewhere, so I'll go to like a Panera or whatever, and I can't do that now. So I've had to reset too, of like, all right, okay, hold on. You've been doing this for a long time. You shouldn't be struggling this much. And so honestly, I talked about it in the intro in the course, like going through the course was really, really valuable for me because I'm going through all this stuff and I'm going, ooh, yeah, you just said that, but you're not doing that the same way you just said it. And so I had to rethink through. So I actually like wiped my calendar completely and recolor coded and re-blocked out and into my calendar block and started adjusting the way that I review my tasks. I dug into my, like actually when I was going through in the course, when I'm going through my toggle, I look at a report real quick and I'm like, oh, like I'm looking at that. And it means I need to assess because I had way too much that was under like general. And I'm like, okay, there's way too much time there. There's too many things in there. I'm not being specific, which means I can't possibly analyze the same way. So Joe's in the house. What's going on? And Brandon said delegation is key. Sometimes a lot easier said than done. Sometimes letting go of control is challenging, but so rewarding in the long run. Yeah. Josh, I want you to speak to that. Delegation.
Well, I mean, most educators...
you might have trouble letting go sometimes too.
Oh, yeah. I think most educators like to have control, right? If you're in the classroom, it's your domain. You have things the way you like it. As an administrator, I mean, obviously we want to do a great job in everything that we do. And so when you have a vision of something and then you try and put that in place and then you start delegating and they don't do it the way that you had in your mind, obviously that's going to be very frustrating for a teacher. If you do that with your students, you delegate to them, let's even say, cleaning up a mess and they don't do it the way that you wanted to, it actually creates more work for you in the long run. And so I think that's the major piece is like making sure that you understand that there's a training time there and they're not going to do it perfect. Probably the first 10 times, especially if it's a student. If it's your own children, it's not going to happen perfectly the first few times. But after a while, like my kids do the dishes, right? I don't have to worry about them. They know the process, they know how to do, and they do a great job. But that wasn't the case for the first, couple weeks when they were doing it. In the classroom, same thing, or, aspiring leaders, like people that want to do something for an administrator and you give them a task to take on, they're going to mess up, they're going to screw up, and that's part of the process. And you have to accept that and then also understand the time that you're teaching, you're going to get that time back tenfold in the long run. It may seem like it's an inconvenience at first, but when it's all said and done, when they do understand it and they are able to implement it, you're going to get a ton of time back.
It's off your plate. It's funny. Something going back to the tracking of time and putting the effort into batching and blocking and all this stuff. Like a lot of times the pushback I get about time tracking is then I got to open up a app and I got to type it in. I got to remember to do that. And I'm like, yeah. But once you get in the routine of that, it's not much time and you're going to save time. But Josh, that's a really good point. Like one of the hardest points of delegation is and Brandon alluded to that, is like letting go of control is because of that. But if you can see the future, actually, like it works really well with a lot of, we do a lot of work with the grid method, which is a lot of upfront work for an educator, but you get a lot of time back once it's in place. It's the same thing with delegation. Like it takes a little while to get, a Joshua Stamper up and running the podcast network. But then once you got it like this, but that freed up a lot of time for me, a lot of headaches, a lot of things that I don't worry about now because it just happens. Ray and I were actually talking about that, like with a lot of different pieces of the team where like I felt like I should have more on my list of stuff we have to like fix because that's usually how the end of the year is. And she's like, and I like read it off. I'm like, I feel like I'm missing stuff. Like we have more. She's like, no, I just think a lot of people have a lot of stuff under control. So things are going well. And I'm like, yeah, there was a lot of time to do that. Michelle on our team who does so much with our, like the administration side, like there was a lot of process going through there and creating videos. So she had them for reference and stuff, but now it's just like, it's so nice. So that delegation, yeah, definitely. It's so worth it though. Jen, do you want to, I guess Jen or Becky, if anyone want to jump in, like your delegation, how are you around it? Like, have you struggled with that? Is something that Jen, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you might struggle with that because I know you're very particular about everything you do. I know. I'm just completely off base here. So have you found that is it harder for you to delegate that?
I'm gonna delegate and let Becky answer this first because I don't have a problem with delegating. So I'm gonna let Becky answer first and then I'll answer.
Well played.
Very well played.
Thank you.
Very
Jennifer has no problem delegating. I have several problems delegating. I do have. It's hard for me to delegate because I think exactly what you were saying, Joshua. Like I know how I want something done, and sure, I can allow you to do that. But when it doesn't go the way I want it to go and it doesn't look the way or feel the way that I want it to feel, then it makes me super anxious. But one thing that's helped me recently, in September, I lost my father, and I'm the doer of my family. I'm the doer of like my siblings. I'm the doer of my family here. Like my husband's amazing, but there's a lot that I do and kind of hold everything together. But having that happen in my life has made me sit back and stop for a second and say, you know what? I don't have to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't have to do all these things. And other people can do them, and they're not going to do them the way I want them to, or how I would do it. And that's okay. And so that has made me sit back and realize that just because it doesn't happen the way I want it to, that's not the most important thing right now. The fact that it is done and it's done well, there we are. Like that's what matters. And so that's helped me delegate. Now I do not want to give anything away to anyone else. I want to do it. I want to be in charge. I want to help, like be part of the team and lead. But that's something that's helped me at least sit back and say, no, I don't have to do everything, and that's okay. And actually that gives me a minute to think about other stuff that perhaps is more important on my to-do list. So as I'm prioritizing what needs to be done, or what due date's coming tomorrow, and I really like need to do that now, it's just helped do that. It's helped me clear my plate a little bit and focus on other things. So here you are.
Yeah.
Right,
And I
Jim,
think when something, okay. I think when something like major happens like that, like you said, Becky, like, you know, I remember Hans lost his mom when he was really young, like in his 20s, and it changes you. Like, you know, it kind of puts things in perspective for you. And you're like, everything doesn't have to be perfect, because, you know, when something it's just like, it brings perspective to it. So I like what you said there, Becky. Yeah.
You don't want something like that to happen. I'm not like, yes.
No, but
by giving me something terrible tomorrow, but it does put things in perspective, and you're like, oh, okay then.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes something like that for a reset to happen. And it's just the way we work. Jen, I'm gonna go back on my initial comment, because here's where I'm split. I can totally see you struggling with delegation because you visualize things and you see how you want them. You're very particular, but I also know you're very analytical in the way you think about your time management. So I'm wondering if you get ahead of yourself and you're like already there, cutting yourself off at the top, saying, "But you're gonna save all this time," and I've already calculated it out. So which one is it? Because now I'm just like, I don't even care about anybody else right now. I'm just interested.
So I will say that when I was younger, I did not delegate at all. Like I was like, it's better if I just do it myself, because nobody else can do it the way I want it done, and it needs to be done a certain way. And I would say that I've learned with my students, it started with my kids at school, like to delegate everything to them. I was a leadership teacher. And so I've been a leadership teacher for a while, and leadership means like, I mean, I'm teaching these kids to do a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of things that they're doing. I mean, they ran the school store, they're doing bulletin board. There's a ton of stuff they're doing that a lot of people can see, and I can't do it all. And so I remember I have kids that did bulletin boards in our hallway and stuff, and they're not perfect because they're 6th graders doing bulletin boards. They're not going to look perfect, but they're going to do a good job, and they're going to look like them, and they're going to, you know, express their creativity, and it's going to be really cool. But I remember some people were like, that looks horrible. Like, why would you put that up? Like, why would you let them do that? And I'm like, because they're 6th graders and this is their school. It's not mine. Like, this is their environment. This is their school. And it does look cool because it's what they wanted. So it is what should be there. So I think like my kids kind of taught me like I needed to delegate to them. And so I kind of stood back, and I'm the one taking pictures and like, oh, I'm like document everything. I'm putting on things on Instagram, and like they're running the whole thing. I mean, we did this huge Wildcat Cafe. They run the whole thing. Like I do nothing. I seriously take pictures and like plug in the hot water in the morning. Like that's all I do. Like I don't really do anything. And so they've like run the whole thing. And so I think it started with the kids where I'm like, okay, if an 11-year-old can do this, like my 43-year-old husband should be able to like, you know, pick up something. Like it should be possible. Like it can happen.
We got a live feud going here.
I know.
That's a really good segue.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I
then
totally
you understand. Like, it doesn't have to be like Becky said. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like it doesn't. And I think the other thing is that I've been on the other end of somebody like delegating to me and then they didn't like the way I did it. And so they redid it. And that irritated me because I was like, I spent this time doing this.
Why'd you ask me? Why'd you have me do
now
this?
you've completely
Yeah.
Right. And now you've just completely like redone it. And I'm like, why did I spend time? Like, and that irritates me with time management because I'm like, I have other things I could have been doing. Like, so I understand like from the other perspective. Now I'm like, oh God, I did that to people. Like, that's horrible. Like, you know.
I think another piece you touched on that with the kids, and this is a big one for just leaders in general who have to delegate, is you give those kids an opportunity. You touched on that, an opportunity for them to own it, for them to be creative, for them to see that come to fruition, for them to stand back and take pictures with you and be proud of that, right? Regardless of whoever what says, like, and when you're delegating tasks, you know, specifically with your kids too, but specifically to like the professional sense, like when you have an opportunity to delegate something, you don't look at it as just, I got to get this off my plate. It's who can I empower with this? Who can I give an opportunity to? Where's that next Josh or Stamper that's itching to take on something, even if it's just this thing that I think is a little thing that is important. That's something for them to get a look into your world, a look into that next level, or just be like Becky likes to be, just like she said, she wants to be part of the team. She wants to get this thing done. There's a lot of people there around you that can do that. And for your students, the opportunity, like you said, with all the leadership stuff, all the stuff they get to do, it's awesome. So, anyway, awesome conversation. I'm loving this. I don't want to keep everyone too late. We've been going for a while here. Really appreciate everyone jumping in the.
Appreciate you, Hans.
That's very true. I apologize, Josh. I will never say that again. He is correct. Appreciate everyone jumping in the comments, both with highs and comments and jokes. Appreciate all that, Hans. Course is up right now. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough. Over at teachbetteracademy.com, and then the 10 post blog series is up as well on teachbetter.com. There you can see all these amazing educators that are with me here. You can follow them wherever they are at. I think that's everyone's Twitter, right? I think everyone's about the same. Anyway, follow them. Excited to do it. I'm super excited because next week, am I allowed to mention what's coming next week?
Yeah.
I'll be there. The next week, we're going to be live a few times with Jennifer talking about something super cool that she's got going on very, very soon. I'll leave it at that. So you want to make sure you keep an eye out on all the Twitters and stuff. Oh, you're going to show it?
There it is.
Oh, she's really a quicker one.
Slow-mo.
To get it. So we're excited about that. So that's going to be fun. I'm excited about the course. I hope you go check it out. If you already have the $9 a month membership, it's in your My Courses already. So excited for that. Tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Tomorrow, actually, tomorrow is something. So 5:00 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, I'll be live with Dave Schmitto. Yep. Actually, he and Chad will be live tomorrow morning, recapping or rewinding our masterminds from today, which we had an incredible group this morning. We had 3 different breakout rooms we had to go into because we had such a big crowd this morning and great conversations both morning and evening. So they'll be recapping that tomorrow morning. Dave and I will be live for Brain Break tomorrow evening. And then on Thursday, we've got Mastery Chat. So lots of stuff going on, lots of chances to catch us live. And then we'll be back live a bunch next week as well with Jen celebrating this and stuff. So appreciate y'all. And we will see you, I guess, next time. Appreciate the 3 of you as well. Thanks for jumping on. Have a good night, everyone.